forgot to prep the intro. Here we go. Hello, that's the wrong one. Whoa. Hello and welcome to a. That's
I don't
right.
know
You
what
didn't
even
know
happened
anything.
there.
That's a stream thing. You have to watch the stream to see that weird
Okay.
mix up.
Let me turn on the
Multiple
stream.
different views here, and I switched over to the one that's 3 people instead of 2 people, which is not appropriate because we are not 3 people. We are only 2.
I thought you were like streaming gigantic asses or.
I mean,
something.
no,
Like
I mean,
you.
no, just you. All right, that's terrible. Hey, this is the Pixel-related podcast. If you don't know what this is, I wouldn't blame you because we haven't done a podcast for like 2 months. Actually, I think it's like 1 month.
That's back to our schedule.
1 month, like 26 days or something along those lines. I think the last episode we did was like June 14th or something along. But we're back. It's summer. This happens. I mean, sometimes we're like this normally, but this definitely happens every summer after E3. We need to just take a break. We need to like go on vacations and relax, and then like no games come out, so there's not a whole lot of new stuff to talk about anyways. But nevertheless,
Nothing happens whatsoever.
Nothing happens. They actually stopped. They turned off video games for the month of July.
Yep.
The internet.
The tap got turned off.
Yep. They were like, go outside, go play in the street like a good little boy. And that's how they weed out, the weak from the strong.
Yeah, that's how you do it. That's how you get the good games.
But we're back, and hopefully we're back on a more regular schedule now. We'll see. I'm not promising anything, obviously. But it's August 11th. It is 10:30 a.m. In the Pacific Standard Time. We're doing this early because scheduling is fun. And finding times to sit down and do this is also a reason why this probably... I mean, look, we weren't really talking about podcasts for a while there, but we've been trying to put this together for about 2 weeks now, I'd say.
2 or 3, yeah.
And timing just hasn't worked out. Stuff has come up and whatnot, but we're here. We have games to talk about. Some of them are new games. Some of them are very old games. And there's some new stuff that's come out within the last couple of days that is fairly newsworthy that we are going to talk about. But I'm going to get started off with a quote-unquote new game, which I played 2 months ago, but we haven't had a podcast to talk about
You want to give us an intro at all, or
did I get an intro?
No, you didn't.
Who is this? What is this? I don't remember.
You just said that it's the podcast. You didn't give us.
Oh, is that I didn't get us? I'm sorry. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah,
because I'm sure you have your like a witty banter thing that you need to say after I say your name. As usual.
Yeah, I definitely do. Yeah, I really do.
So I'm your host, Kyle. Joining me this week, as always, is Adam.
Hi.
Swing and a miss. It's okay. We're not.
Felt very strongly about that. Felt very strongly.
And we're not joined by Gus today. Gus is off doing Gus stuff, whatever Gus does. Yeah, sorry, man. I am rusty, apparently, just not used to this whole podcast thing. Well, what I was about to say is the newest game that we have to talk about, something that came out 2 months ago that I played back when it came out, and I have not had a chance to talk about it. And I won't because it's a fairly older game and I played it a while ago. I'm not going to go into too long of a time. I just wanted to say that I did play Detroit Become Human. Not Detroit 2 Human. That's a different game. I really like the David Cage games, generally speaking. The last one was really bad. Beyond Two Souls, or is that what it was called? That was a bad game. That had
let's get a naked model of this girl made for David Cage. That's what he wants.
Hey,
that's what he demands.
That's what the story calls for. It's all about story and creating emotions. and
definitely about the story in that we made this naked model that never got used.
Anyways, Beyond Two Souls was not a good game. I think certain parts, like, it was very like, it kind of, because it was not a linear time story, so it kind of jumped all over the place, and I think there was parts of that were good, but the overall I thought was pretty bad. Detroit Become Human. God, it's gonna never not happen. It's a good game. I actually thoroughly enjoyed my playthrough of it. This one kind of goes back more towards what Heavy Rain was doing. You focus on 3 different characters, similar to what Heavy Rain did. One of them is a cop doing detective-y stuff, just like in Heavy Rain. Except the twist is now they are all androids, and it's about androids. Are they real people? Are they not real people? Do they have emotions? Do they have feelings? Blah 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 blah. I think that stuff is okay. I actually really liked, so the cop character is Connor, and I actually liked basically all of the stuff that he was in. Like, I found the investigation stuff, his character, or his boss or partner, or whatever you want to call him, is played by Clancy Brown, which you remember. Yes, he's Hank. You remember,
Hank, go up.
You know Clancy Brown as the bad guy from Highlander. As well. He's been in a ton of stuff, but
yeah.
He is awesome. Like, he is a really cool character. He is, like, deep, and like, he's kind of starts out and he hates androids. He thinks androids are terrible, and then as the game goes on, you see like that's kind of a facade that he's kind of putting over himself to kind of protect like the terrible stuff that's happened in his life, and he actually does, like, he grows to like Connor, and
well, depending on how you play it.
Sure, yes, exactly. Yeah,
if you leave him there to die, he's not exactly super happy about that.
Well, I mean, sure. I guess the way that my story played out, which is what I mean, you compare these types of games to something like a Telltale game, the choices do actually make a difference a lot of the time. Sometimes it is just like, hey, it's a forked road that comes back on the other side to the same point. But then other times it's like, yeah, you're making a decision that legitimately has a significant change of like how, not just like, hey, how does this sequence play out? It's, hey, does this sequence even play out, period? Is this character even here? Are they in a completely different part during the sequence? I mean, it's especially like when you get to the end of the game and everything kind of starts coming together, like the choices you made is like if you let a character die off, obviously you're not going to see the continuation of their story. But if you make a different decision about that character, about which way they go in certain parts, like they will be an antagonist during part, or if you play it the other way, they will be part of the good guys, and so things can change very rapidly. And the coolest thing I think about Detroit is that it shows you the stuff behind the scenes. Like, when you finish a chapter, it pops out a giant flowchart that's like, hey, this is all the stuff that could have been done, and it shows you, hey, this stuff, yeah, it's a simple choice, but it ultimately leads back around to the same point. Or, hey, this is a discovery, or this is a decision you made, and it's going to have an effect on something in a later chapter. It has like a little mark for that. Or you'll see like, hey, there's different branching ways. Like, it could have ended this way, it could have ended this way, and it doesn't tell you what those are. It doesn't show you what those are. It just shows that there are other possibilities out there, and that's what I really liked about Heavy Rain, is kind of going in and diving in and seeing all the other stuff. Like, there are some really twisted ways that Heavy Rain can end, especially if you do not save Sean, the son. Like, basically every ending of that game, Ethan kills himself if you don't save his son, and it gets really dark and it gets really messed up. And I liked seeing like all the permutations that were going on in that game, and this game kind of pulls the cover off and is like, yeah, here's everything. You want to go back through and play it and see a different thing? This is where you need to make a slightly different, choice or whatever, and then you can go down that line and see how that changes. And I kind of had to do that for, like, after I beat the game the first time. Like, I really liked it, but I had let one of my characters die, and it was really upsetting to me because I didn't want them to die. And so I kind of immediately turned around, went back like 3 chapters, replayed that part, made a different choice, didn't die, and got this entire new extended sequence where still fairly terrible things happened, but at least the one character didn't die. and I was good about that. Yeah, it's I
well,
really
thank
like
God,
it.
thank God that the only character that's in that game is Hank and Connor, because man, if there were other characters, they sure would fucking suck
Okay,
and not make any sense at all.
so no. Let me stop you there. So there's three characters. So there's Connor. He is a like police detective android robot thing.
Blade Runner.
Um, yeah, basically he's a
Yeah.
robot that is like has parts of his capability unlocked, so he specifically is tuned to hunt down other androids. You have Kara, who is a like housemaid robot who breaks away from her situation with a little girl. I think her stuff was interesting. I don't think it was fantastic, and like they set up this big reveal that seems really dumb and
It doesn't seem really dumb. It is really dumb.
Okay, like they seem to think like the game wants you to think that it's interesting, and I thought it was kind of dumb. And honestly, the one that has gotten like the most marketing and stuff like that is Marcus, and I found Marcus by far the least interesting of the three characters.
Yeah.
Like his goal to like liberate androids and stuff like that. Like I can feel for that. That's an interesting story, but he just like nothing that he does is all that interesting or compelling. I will say that there is a part that I did really like where he is like where basically he goes from it gives you the option to either like vandalize or like destroy or just like do, I guess you would call like peaceful protests where they like, I mean, that's still kind of vandalizing, but they like they do like digital graffiti on stuff and change signs so that instead of saying like, oh, this is where the exit to the bus stop is, it says like Android freedom forever, blah, stuff like that. And then that leads into like this march down the street where with like all the other people, and then like I thought that part was actually pretty cool. So the only Marcus part that I thought was was cool, because everything else was kind of just fine.
Dumb.
But even that, like, but there's a decision you make early on in the Marcus quest, like in the second chapter or maybe the first chapter you play as him, that I like going back and looking through stuff, like you can play out a certain different way, and it sounds like it brings back this thing at the very near end of the game, completely different from the way that I played it. And like that's what's cool about this game is like all the behind the scenes stuff, all the permutations you can go in and investigate. I'm gonna probably I rented it. I'm probably gonna get it again at some point and play through it again and just try different things. Like, you know, I know Adam, you had talked about like because they are robots, there is a thing with Connor where basically you could just let him get killed and he will just
it's really good.
They just make just make a new one and send him back out, and he doesn't have quite the same memories. But then
he keeps like he keeps destabilizing, which is really fucking cool. Yeah. Like that's the Connor stuff I think is like far in a way the best stuff in that game.
Yeah, like,
and it seems like it's actually really good.
Yeah, like I kind of just want to play that game.
Yeah.
Just the Connor game where he's a detective doing detective stuff. Like I found because he's an android, he can like slow down time and like process stuff. Found that really cool for like looking for clues and stuff like that. Yeah. As well as like everything he's dealing with as far as like he is like Kara and Marcus essentially already have their minds made up about how they feel about androids, and Connor doesn't. Like he is conflicted and he's not sure how he feels. I mean, he is literally hunting down androids and at times having to kill androids because they are going, what do they call it? Rampant?
Deviant,
yeah. Because they're going deviant, and he has to make tough decisions, and and you know, they'll go deviant and they'll be just like, no, like we just wanted to escape because we're in love. We didn't mean to kill him, but he was hurting her. Like it's like, oh, well, yeah, that's actually perfectly like legitimate, but like Connor still has to decide what he wants to do in that moment because it goes against his programming to, you know, let those people go. Or
all of the really big problems come up, I feel like, outside of Connor's story. Like all of these stuff that like just doesn't make sense. Like the thing is, we've gotten to the point now where it's like, okay, if we ever did have a lifelike android thing, you would have to be considering this stuff as like, okay, at some point it's probably gonna turn. What the fuck do we do then? like the designers of these fucking robots, the big problem that like I think is just so fucking glaring is that like they can heal themselves, but they can also take away the one thing that identifies them visually as an android.
Yeah, their little side thing.
Yeah, their little fucking thing. Like that is like so key and important to the Marcus and Kara storyline, and like so integral to that stuff. Like their deviancy is such a nonsensical fucking mess a lot of the time. Like,
yeah,
it's that's actually the big stuff that I think is an issue. But I do think that the Connor stuff is, I would go so far as to say it's good. You know, like it is. It's a good character who has a lot of different arcs and a lot of different like motivations that you can have. Like, does he continue to try to help out this evil corporation? Is evil corporation going to be evil, or are they not going to be evil? Or is he not going to be evil? And is he going to, you know, like there's conflict within that character that I think is way more interesting and way more logical than anything that is in either of those fucking stories. Yeah. Like there's an entire fucking Jesus-y subplot that happens with, you know, one of those arcs, and it's really, really overdone. Like it's trying to bash you the fuck in with the goddamn allegory, or like, hey, like this robot, oh, what's wrong with you? Oh, they tied me to the back of a truck and they dragged me. It's like, don't bring that imagery up though, because no, fuck you, David Cage. It's yeah, I think like it seems like it's the most competently made of those games that they've done.
For sure.
It's I think like the addition of that whole like branching thing, I think that's really cool, especially because you can see like, oh, okay, this thing is going to connect into a different chapter, and then when you hit that point, you can go, oh, okay, like this is what the thing was from that other chapter.
Like early on, there's a point where it's like when you're Kara and you're going through like and you're cleaning up this guy's house, and you open up a drawer and you find a gun. And then it's like in like 2 chapters later or whatever, it's like when bad stuff is going down, because you found that gun, you can go and get that gun and use that. But if you didn't find that gun, you like the implication is that you would have to figure out a different way out of that. And there's like little things like that they'll plant seeds in earlier chapters just kind of by you being thorough and looking at stuff or asking the certain line of questioning to unlock an option. Like the same thing happens with Connor and Hank. Like depending on how you ask like questions about Hank, about like, you know, do you actually get him to tell you what's going on with like his kid? Then you have those options unlocked to you later in the game. Like it kind of plants those seeds way earlier in the game that are meaningful and important later on. It's cool. I really like the whole aesthetic of the game too. Like how they display, like when Kara, whatever, when she breaks like from who she is to be deviant, and they kind
pushes that wall so
they kind
hard.
Of visualize it like her like pounding through this digital wall. Like I was like, that's a really cool way to kind of show like her internal struggle of like they do that, like their kind of augmented reality, like futuristic world. There's a lot of really cool stuff in there. Yeah. So I mean, like
I think there's a solid chunk of that game. Like I just
like a half of it is really good. Like I said, I think Connor stuff is great. I think about half of of Kara's stuff is great, and most of Marcus' stuff is not that interesting. So
yeah, I think the big problem that I think it is completely right to is that like, hey, you guys really haven't earned a lot of this imagery that you're trying to evoke. Like you're trying to evoke the civil rights struggle, and hey, robots have to sit on the back of the bus. Like that's as far as you go with it, you know. Or like I think that stuff is, you know, like I remember like do you remember the Robo Apartheid thing from like from
Deus Ex?
Mankind, was it Mankind Divided?
Sounds right.
Yeah, so like that stuff was kind of overdone in their marketing, but it was like not of that much consequence within the game. It was just like, okay, like people don't like augmented dudes. Okay, I guess. Here it feels like it's being way more heavy-handed with it in a way that they are trying to evoke specific stuff. Like there was that, I think there was also like the Robo Lives Matter thing in that game, which that was just fucking bad.
I don't remember that. There's definitely a like We Have a Dream thing in there that is like, I don't know. None of that stuff really bothered me all that much because like you can see, I don't know. It's the same. I think it's the same like dumb. Like it feels dumb to me in this like that. I don't know. I would like to say that I think people are better than that, but honestly, in the world that we are today, maybe that's not true.
It's bad allegory is my problem. Like it's not that it's trying to be an allegory for something else instead of being like, hey, this is why this shit would happen.
Yeah.
Like it's just like, okay, like people don't like androids. Hey, this robot is $1,000. Like, how do we make what? Huh? Oh, and they're just walking bags of crack, basically. Like you can just get crack out of this robot if you just stick a needle in its neck or some shit. It just ends up that its allegory, I think, doesn't work because it's not very subtle. You can tell that the people who wrote it don't understand the core issues. Like there's the whole railroad thing, the chapter that is straight up called Railroad, and it's about this couple that it's not a couple, it's like the mother and the son. Yeah, they like own a house that used to be a part of the Underground Railroad, and then they have a moment where the black lady's like, yeah, I understand. We used to have the same thing. It's like, I don't fucking that's not a thing that somebody would say. Like there's just, and I think that's the big issue that I have with it is that it feels like it's coming from somebody who knows that history only from reading about it in history books. And obviously it's a French company. So like, yeah, of course they don't have the same fucking history that we do with the fucking horrendous racist shit that happened in our country and still continues to. So like they don't have that historical context, and also, also the whole shit that came out about Quantic Dream right around this game's launch just kind of makes it feel really hollow on that stuff.
Yeah.
Now, that said, I think there's a damn good detective game here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what it is, and like so that stuff really doesn't bug me all that much, and I think, but there's a couple moments here and there that definitely are kind of it's like it kind of makes you cringe a little bit. But like that is like I said, that's the stuff that's part of what makes Marcus's story very uninteresting, because you just don't feel like you don't feel it. Like it's like, yeah, this is not like you say, like it's not getting to any root of the problem. It's just like, yeah, like bad humans are going to be bad, good robots are going to be good, I guess. Like there's no nuance to it whatsoever with the stuff with the Marcus story, which there is in the Connor story. So I mean, yeah, I would, if you like these types of games, I would probably recommend it. Just kind of know what you're getting into and know that some parts are going to be a lot better than others. That's okay, that is what it is. Let's see here. The other game, which is now that's the end of our new games discussion. Everything else is much older than the Detroit Human, but we talk about it for a good reason. I do want to talk very briefly about Battle Chef Brigade, which is a game that I had really wanted to play when it came out last year, just never got around to getting it. I love the companies that give away stuff for free. It's really annoying when they give stuff away for free like 2 weeks after I buy it. So I bought Battle Chef Brigade when it went on sale during the Steam sale, and then Twitch Prime gave it away for free like 2 weeks later after I had already put like 8 hours into it well outside like Steam.
But now you have it on Steam. Now you have it on your Steam account.
Sure.
Aren't you happy?
Sure, because I care about where my games are played from, so I get those Steam achievements.
Gotta get those cards, man.
That's annoying. But whatever. So Battleship Brigade is a really interesting game where you are in a world where basically cooking is like the best thing. Like, it's what every little kid aspires to, is to be the best chef in the world. And it's a game that is part like very simple, straightforward, like action 2D like action game where you have to like go out into the woods, punch a bunch of monsters and plants in the face, then take their ingredients and then go back and do like a match 3 cooking puzzle game, except the way that you move like the little like gems around is not by like swapping or anything like that. You rotate groups of 4 like you were stirring a pot, to then create chains to do that. And then they mix all that into this kind of Iron Chef competition thing where you are going head to head against another chef, and you have to make different dishes for different judges. And one judge will say, I'm looking for spice in my meal, and so they need, you know, mostly red gems in theirs. And one person will say, I want it to be watery, and so you need to get them blue, and like so on and so forth. And it's a dumb concept that is really cool in practice. Like, I find the actual like going out, getting a bunch of ingredients, having to mix them together, kind of trying to keep a balance of like, hey, the, you know, this judge wants this very specific thing, and so you kind of have like 3 different plates going at the same time, you know, having to kind of keep track of like who wants what. I need to go out and get this ingredient because this ingredient has these, like, this certain gems. Every ingredient has a certain gem combination and a certain pattern, and so you have to like pay attention to what you're dropping in there. There's stuff like bones that you have to deal with, which are fine to have in there, but if you mix a couple of them together, they become like a rainbow like wild card. There's like poisonous stuff that shows up after you hit a certain point in the game that you have to kind of get rid of, or it's going to make your dish taste terrible. It's a super interesting game as far as just like a gameplay. Like, it's a ton of fun to play, and it has a bunch of different modes as you kind of go through the story. Like, there is like the head-to-head chef stuff. There is like a puzzle aspect where it basically will give you a dish that you need to stir around, and you have to hit a certain point total just by stirring stuff, or maybe adding some ingredients and then stirring it together. And those are really interesting. It's a really fun little game, and I know I have it on Steam. It's on Switch as well. I don't know if it's anywhere else besides that. But I really like it. The only complaint I have is that it has an actual story mode where you follow this girl who starts out in like very humble beginnings in this little town, and then she goes off to join the Battle Chef Brigade, which the game's called, which are these like, I guess they're like a military police force or whatever, except obviously they do all of their, peace making in the world through cooking foods and slaying monsters to then cook more food. I don't know. Doesn't make a ton of sense.
They're like the Power Rangers, but for cooking,
I guess. And then the way the story goes is like all of a sudden poison starts showing up, which is what you have to deal with when you're cooking and stuff like that. And then you have to kind of get to the bottom of that. And so it does this whole combination thing. You have to go through this whole like series of challenges or whatever to try to get into the brigade. And then the game just like on a dime just switches you over to this other character who's been along this part of the story the whole time, goes back like a month in the game, and kind of starts over again with this new character doing a completely different sets of things. And it's like, oh no, like I wanted to keep going with the character that I've been playing for this, like, these past like 10 hours, and all of a sudden I switched over to this other character and doing this kind of other random side stuff. I don't know. That kind of turned me off to the game, and the last chapter I haven't gone through and finished yet, which I think goes back to the original character. So I think it's paced really weird. Then the way that it does that, like, it should, like, if I were designing it, and I'm not a game designer or a game developer or anything like that, but I would think that you would like mix in both characters kind of equally throughout the beginning, rather than just kind of halt everything, switch to a different character, go back in time, do a bunch of stuff, and then go back to the original character after that. It just seems really paced weird. But it's super fun to play. I really dig the gameplay of it. It's kind of interesting match 3 gameplay, because you're essentially creating your own game board that you're matching stuff in, whereas every Puzzle Quest or Tetris or whatever, you're basically left to the whim of like, what's going to pop up, and I have to deal with it whatever pops up. And this one is very much like you have to put your own pieces on the board and kind of arrange them yourself, so it's like an extra layer of strategy. It's cool. It's really cool. I really like it.
Yeah, I started playing a bit of it on Switch, and then a bunch of other stuff kind of came up. Um, so like I know you had kind of mentioned like the poison starts being mixed into that. Is there anything else that they start like changing up as you go into the game, or does it kind of just kind of keep that same sort of base mechanics, but now you have to like hunt specific hunt specific monsters?
Yeah, that's what it is. So it's like like you go through and you do all these challenges, and it's all head to head. Like the main storyline is you're facing off against various different people. It's other people that are trying to get into the brigade. There's some bad guys that you have to do chef battle. Not really bad guys per se, but antagonists of a sort that you have to do chef battles against. And every chef battle, it tasks you with, hey, you need to get this particular monster needs to be in your dish somehow. It doesn't necessarily have to be like the star of the dish or anything like that, but it has to be in that dish. And there's so many different like modifiers and stuff. Like there are different pans that you can use to cook in that have different properties. Like I ended up getting I had a combination pan, which is as you match things together in quick succession, it would upgrade various parts of your dish. So you kind of had to like after you did this like big combo chain of like, oh, I just matched like 6 things together, and then you wait a second and then it pops up a bunch of parts that are going to upgrade, and so you have to move the proper pieces into that spot, and then they'll upgrade to the next level. Then I had one that was like a slow cooker, so if you put a thing in there, it would slowly just promote the gems that are in there into higher versions of themselves. And then the other one, I was like a duplicator one, so it's like, oh, I don't have a lot of red, but this guy wants a lot of red, so it gets a really high level red, and then I'm just gonna drop it in there and come back at the end of the match, and there's just gonna be a bunch of red in there. Like things like that is kind of like there's different bonuses that you can get, as far as like you can find these books and equip these books, and they'll give you different bonuses. So if you do it, like one is, hey, if you have every type of piece from the monster you're trying to slay, you'll get a bonus. Or hey, if this one has at least 8 red pieces in it, you'll get a bonus. So there's lots of different ways you can kind of get in there, different like pots and pans you can use, different bonuses that you can use to try to be successful. Like as far as the actual like mixing stuff, it doesn't really get much deeper than it has the 3 different colors, it has the bones, and it has the poison, and then there'll be a point where the gems are poisoned themselves, which means if you rotate them too much, they will break. Which is either a good thing or a bad thing, depending on whether you're trying to use that or
depending on what you need.
Like if it's a blue one and you don't need blue, sure, just rotate it in a break, and then that frees up space for something else. So I mean, there's other little things that get in there. Like I said, I haven't finished the last chapter. I doubt they will add anything new in the last chapter. But it's hectic. They'll give you like an 8-minute timer, and they'll task you with making 3 dishes, and with like you have to get your primary ingredients from like a dragon, and that dragon can suck to kill. And it's like, so you have to spend like half of the match just trying to kill the dragon, and then rush through the rest to try to get a bunch of just random ingredients and try to put together a dish at the last spot. Like it can get really hectic. I didn't find it super difficult. I think I only lost. There was like one particular battle where I had to play it like 3 times before I won, just because I found it really. I think it might have been the dragon one actually that I had to do like several times before I did actually beat it. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it doesn't necessarily get super deep. It's only, I think it's a $20 game unless you get it on sale. Yeah. Like I think when I got it, I think it was $12. It was like 40% off or whatever that would be. I think it's definitely worth it. It's especially if you're looking for Switch games. I'm not playing it on Switch, but it seems like a really good Switch game. To have something on the go like that.
Yeah, it's fun. I want to go back to it. At the same point, like there was also like like the sort of match games that came out. Also, Luminous had to like come out just around the same time that I started playing that. So, I had to go through Luminous. So,
no, sorry, my
dog is super excited about Luminous, man. Like I get you, dog.
He loves Luminous. I apologize for that. Hey, cut it out. Okay. So the Adam, I know the thing that you have been playing the most in our break is a game from 3 years ago, 2 years ago. When did No Man's Sky come out?
Oh, I thought you were gonna. No, that's not the game that I've been playing the most during our break.
No,
the game that I've been playing during our break came out in like 2013.
Okay, that's also true. Okay, sorry. No, we don't talk about that game. This is a no Warframe zone.
What game don't we talk about?
This is a no Warframe zone in this podcast. No, I'm talking about No Man's Sky. When did No Man's Sky came out? 2015?
2016. I feel like it might have been 2016. Because last year they had their big set of updates.
But was that the first?
Pathfinder.
But was that the first? Was that their first attempt at making it a good game?
Yes. Yeah. Those were their first attempts with fix-it.
I don't think they quite. I know we talked about this last year, and I think we came up during our Game of the Year stuff because we talk about games that are like best like continuing content and stuff like that. I don't think they quite did it last year. I got back in about this time last year and tried to jump back into No Man's Sky and try it out, and didn't really hook me. This year they had their No Man's Sky Next update, which corresponded with their launch on the Xbox One. And Adam, I think they might have finally made No Man's Sky a good game.
They made a good game. Yeah, they made No Man's Sky a good game.
Gosh, it really...
as long as you're really into the loop. Because if you're not into that loop, then you're not going to be enjoying. But there's a lot of different loops now, right?
Yeah. Well,
this game fit many loops.
It's still generally speaking, it's still like at the base level is very much kind of like what it was originally. Like it's just like a very just like chill, relaxing, just like go down to a planet, mine some stuff, build some stuff or whatever. But they have streamlined so much of that stuff and added so many different like variants on that. Like the refining and base building, and there is an actual story. The frigate. I haven't gotten to the point that I have a frigate or anything like that yet. Although I think that's story related from what I've been hearing. Like you come upon one in the story, don't you?
You find you'll eventually hit a jump. It seems like where you are going to just hey, this frigate's in danger. I'm gonna go save them, and they're like, hey, do you want this? And you're like, yeah.
Of course,
like, okay, it's yours.
Of course I do.
The thing they don't tell you is that like you can only have one freighter at a time. Because then I was like, oh, cool. I've got this freighter. Now let me go buy another one. It's like, hey, do you want a new freighter? I'm like, yeah, I do. $2 million. Here you go. What happened to my other one that I got for free? Oh, it's just gone now.
Yeah, as long as all the stuff that's on it too, probably, right?
Well, I thankfully didn't put anything onto it. I don't know if you like lose your frigates as well, because that's what you actually send out on missions.
Okay.
Like that's your Assassin's Creed Brotherhood.
See, that reminds me
loop thing.
That reminds me a lot of what happened to me, except it was on a smaller scale. Like one of the first things that like after I'd like gotten a ship and gotten to a new planet is I found like another ship that was crashed. And it was huge. It had all this inventory space, but a ton of stuff was broken on it. And so you needed like all of these like very random materials to repair it. And clearly it was going to take some time, and it was going to take like going to different planets and stuff to do this. But I'm like, but this ship has like twice or three times as many spots as my current ship does. So this is cool. And so I like when you picked it up, it's like, hey, you can add it to your fleet of ships. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to add it to my fleet of ships. And I repaired it enough so I could fly it, and I flew it back to my base. And then I was like, cool. Where is my other spaceship? Oh crap! I don't know where my spaceship is.
Exactly where you left it.
Well, sure. Where is that? Where is that, Adam? Because unlike what No Man's Sky used to do, is it doesn't like the map was never good in No Man's Sky, but at least it used to leave like the indicators and stuff on the map to show you where stuff was, and that was gone. It's
not good.
And it has a thing where you can like call a ship to you automatically. So I did that, and then it's like, oh yeah, this ship doesn't have enough launcher or thruster fuel to get here, and I'm like, well, crap, I don't know where that ship is. Like,
so eventually, when you get a freighter, that ship will just show up inside of the freighter, along with like any of the other ships that you have in your collection.
Sure, yeah. I will say I went to a different planet. I tried the thing again just because I was curious, and it showed up. So apparently magically it got enough fuel to show up. So I did not lose my ship, and I know I left one at my base, and it does keep where your base is at least. So I know where the one is now that I'm working on to upgrade and repair.
Yeah. Yeah. So like they've added in, I think, just a really insane amount of stuff that feels, I'll say this, it feels like that stuff is very disconnected from each other. Like you have your freighter stuff, which is entirely separate from your base building stuff, which is generally very separate from your story mission stuff. You know, like there's each of the things are kind of very self-contained, and I would say, like, if I had a complaint about it, it's that, like, nothing feeds into anything else except for, you know, itself. So you do your freighter missions so that you can get more money, so that you can buy more freighters, so that you can do more freighter missions, so that you can build, you know, so that you can sort of build up this fleet to basically go out all the time. Because that stuff takes like real world time of like, hey, this mission is 4 hours. And like if you have really low level ships, they'll be like, hey, we went to go do this thing. And our ship broke real bad. Can you come fix this for us? And then it's like, okay, well, if I don't fix it, your ship is going to be destroyed. If I do, you're going to be stopping. So like that is its own thing. Base building is its entirely own thing. I haven't even really gotten too terribly deep with the base building stuff of like, hey, this person can work at your base, do this sort of research. You can, like, I don't even know how you hit that point.
Yeah, you can get people to like work on your base and like research stuff or minds. I don't even know. I haven't got to that either, but I've heard about that. There's a lot. That's the kind of interesting about what this game has become. It's like it's surprising again. Like there are stuff in there. That is like, oh, like I didn't even know this was in the game. Like I know that you have ran into it because you put it on the Game of the Year list. I was just wandering around and I found out if it was an egg or something like that. I don't remember what it was, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna grab this thing. And then these huge scary monsters appeared out of nowhere and killed me, and it was crazy. Yeah. And I was like, that really cool. That was awesome. I did not know this game had anything like that.
Biological horror.
Yeah, the biological horror,
really good.
Like that came out of nowhere. There's, like there's the freighter stuff. Like, yeah, you can get people to join your settlements in some way. The multiplayer is in here, which I have not dabbled with at all. But apparently, you can get in with friends or random people can just show up. I don't know if it's like Sea of Thieves levels of like grieving and stuff like that. If they can. Like,
it totally is.
Is it? That's okay.
Yeah, totally. Which is why I'm not playing online, because I just want to go out and I want to experience this stuff. I want to fly around. I want to get a bunch of pictures because, man, that photo mode is really good in that game. They've made a lot of streamlined improvements of like, okay, now there's the whole third person camera, which is really cool, but also like kind of highlights that they didn't make this game to really show the animation of characters. My character's turning around and jetpacking. His neck is fucking snapped its way all the way to the left, but he's just kind of just flying.
They probably didn't have. I mean, that's probably something they with the multiplayer is they were like, well, hey, we have to create character models now. They probably didn't have character models 6 months ago, I imagine, because you didn't see your guy. And I imagine it's probably like the most basic thing that they could kind of come up with, and maybe they will improve that, or maybe they'll just be like, F it. I don't know. I still find it most of the time. I think I still prefer to play it in first person, anyways. Especially when you're in the ship. Like, I mean, it's cool to go into third person.
I can't play that game in first person anymore because I've been playing it in third person. Okay. Yeah, I like playing. I like playing, like it's the same thing like when I'm in, playing a driving game. I like to have the behind the camera.
I do for the most part, but I like when you're in the ship, I really like the cockpit view. I think is cool in this ship, like I don't like the sense of like speed and like breaking into atmosphere or whatever. I just don't think it's to me it's not as cool when you're like looking behind the ship as it is when you're like, in there doing it. When I'm walking around on the planet, I'll kind of switch back and forth, but I still think for like aiming purposes and stuff, I think it still might be better in first person because it's, I don't know, the aim feels real floaty when you're in third person. because it's not whatever, because it's not like the traditional like over the shoulder like Witcher or something like that. Like your kind of character just looks and doesn't move his body most of the time.
Yeah,
when you're like aiming at stuff, and it's kind of off-putting to me.
It's really weird. But like so they've added in, I think, like a lot of stuff that really does make the, it gives you options as to what you were going to do. Whereas like, we were kind of talking about it when the game came out of like, okay, the only thing that my only goal here is going to be to make it to the center. Like they've added in teleporters now, so you can kind of revisit areas, which is great.
That was a huge complaint about the original. Like, so I spent a lot of time when I first played that game in my like original system, and I named all these planets, I named all these creatures, and it was so cool. And then I jumped to the next system, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. Oh, I need copper or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I know I had that. I'm going to go back to their planet, and I couldn't find it. And I was like legitimately sad that like I had spent all of this time doing all this stuff, naming all these planets, this system, like all this stuff, and it was essentially just lost. Like, I will never be able to find that again.
And so now you can go back to that stuff like very, very easily. It does not take much to build a teleporter at a base. Each of the outposts, the trading outposts, which they've also way expanded those.
Dude,
there's a lot of stuff. You mean
there's more than one person on the outpost?
There's more than 2 rooms. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So like they've expanded out a lot of stuff. It still doesn't feel full in the way that I would like. I would really like there to be a city planet or something like that. I can understand technical limits and stuff like that. Maybe really cool, but I do think it's an interesting ass experience to go back to this thing because I played it a bit when the Pathfinder and the Atlas updates hit, and those were like, okay, there's cool stuff here. Okay, now you've got freighters, now you've got base building stuff. Okay, that's cool, but I still can't really get back to that base easily. So what's the point?
Unless you literally just stay in that system the entire time and do not progress the the going towards the center of the universe thing or whatever. I don't know if that's still what the story is.
There is a when you go into your galactic map, there is still like, hey, here are your different filters. Do you want the path that's going to get you to the galactic center? Do you want the path that's going to lead you to where story stuff is? Do you want to find Atlas stations and sort of learn about that story stuff? Okay. There's a lot of stuff going on with this game at this point. I'm like 20 something hours in. I kind of dropped the story because I was like, I want to go out and I want to do this fleet stuff and I want to find really cool shit because I saw that they've now got like abandoned space outposts that I really want to find those.
That sounds cool.
So like there's a lot of good stuff that I think they've gone back and I think they've really fixed it. Like I also think though, if you got burned by it, I wouldn't be surprised if you were like, yeah, I'm never going back to that game again. Like I just don't, it was such a, that kind of after the initial impressions of it, it was such a negative experience of like, okay, I'm just going to go gather this item so that I can sell it, so I can get more warp fuel, so that I can keep going to the center of the galaxy. That was always what you were doing. That was a really core loop.
And it gave you no like reward for like stopping in a galaxy and really like seeing what was up with this system. Like, no, it's just like whatever. I'm just here to get antimatter or whatever, so I can jump to my next point. I don't really care about this planet at all. Like, who cares what's on there? Like, I've learned enough words and I've done enough of the 1 2 2 1 1 1 1 2 like dumb puzzle like over and over again.
To know, the middle choice is always the one that I go with.
And so like, and this one like, kind of right off the bat, it's like, oh, like they've streamlined and opened up all these different options like right from the get-go. And I've even gotten to stuff like there's like you can get like a buggy or something like that, which I would say my only complaint is, so have you gotten a buggy?
I have not.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to get it.
So that's my main complaint right now is I feel like that should be a very early game thing. Like like maybe like by the time you get to the freighter, there's a buggy on the freighter or whatever it is, because like walking around on these planets, especially when you've kind of like cleared out the area, say like around your base, like you have to go pretty far to try to get like new materials and stuff like that, and that's like I feel like that buggy should be one of the earlier game things that they kind of lead you to getting. And I so far, like listening to various podcasts and not, haven't heard anyone that's gotten a buggy yet. So I mean, they're obviously in there somewhere.
They're there. It's an option. I know it is an option.
I think
it is.
Or is this another one of those things?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is Sean Murray there's No Man's Sky in us again?
He's No Man's Skying us on buggies. There's another thing. Like I don't know if you've found it. So there's gonna like you'll hit these times where you'll find like the alien monoliths, right? So you've got the normal ones that just kind of give you a word or whatever.
Sure.
But then you'll find like this like temple almost.
Sure.
And if you go up to it, you can be like, hey, what do you want to know? Do you want to know like do you want to know some words, or do you want to know history? And if you choose history, you'll get directed to a sort of derelict, destroyed alien temple that is like buried underground. So you have to kind of excavate it to find keys, which then you get the keys, and there's going to be like a chest in that area that will have something that could be like worth up to like 10 million units or something.
Oh wow! I don't see. I ran into one of those and I did that, and I don't. Maybe that's a randomized thing if it does that, because I did the like give me your history thing, and it didn't seem to do like I think it pointed me to a place, but it wasn't anything like that. So I mean, whatever.
Because it's not a thing
procedurally generated, so
it's like entirely buried is the only thing. So you know, it could have been
maybe
but
I just didn't catch
but there.
It,
yeah. Because when I got pointed to one of them, it was like, okay, here's all these, the Gravino ball things, the really shiny ones. But then like on top of that, like when you kind of did like the scans, like, oh, alien artifact, alien artifact, alien artifact, alien artifact, alien artifact. Okay, let me start fucking digging. That was a really cool moment of like, oh, holy shit, like I'm excavating this ruin of this alien civilization. Like that's fucking cool. There's good stuff in that game now, and you know I really would recommend it at this point. I've kind of dropped off over the past few days just because I've got another game that I've got to get some stuff done with, because I gotta get some stuff.
Hey, me too.
I gotta get my ducat. Look, I gotta get my ducats. Okay, Barotikir is here this weekend, and I really want to get the Prisma Gorgon, and I really want to I gotta get the mod for a heavy blade, because I've got Galantine Prime, and like I don't have a stance mod for that. So what's the fucking point?
Oh my god.
What's the point?
So much words.
Look, TennoCon happened while we were not doing this show, and I didn't even throw that on as a suggestion of things we could be talking about. Because there's so much. There's Railjack is in there. Fortuna is there. There's a whole new fucking planet, an open area, and you can fucking Fulton animals out of it so that you could do research on them. It's really good.
Wait, what? You could like Metal Gear? They just MGS5 into Warframe.
Yeah,
okay, that's random.
Yeah. They've added that in. They're also adding in space battles.
Someday, I will play Warframe.
Maybe when it's on the Switch. That was another thing that got announced.
I'm afraid of where to start playing that game. That's my problem.
You know what?
Now.
Yep. Entirely. Yeah, because guess what? Yeah, because, there's a whole bunch of shit that hey, they added in all these new items. You can't get them because we've got to get the build out for the consoles.
Yeah.
So good luck seeing that in a month.
Yeah, so should I just start it on PC? Should I start it on PS4 where Adam is playing? So, because it is, multiplayer, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, yeah. No, that's
right.
It's
I think
mostly PvE.
I think I know what Warframe is. I don't know.
Mostly 4-player PvE.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So should I play it on PS4 so that I can play with Adam?
What your best bet would probably be to play it on the PC, because they are in talks right now, from the sounds of it, with multiple parties about being able to transfer your account.
Yeah.
It sounds like they've been talking with all of the platform holders, and that would include Sony.
And they've gotten a yes from all of them but Sony.
Probably. Well, because there's so many issues with it, but they don't even do like cross-platform linking. What they do is they go, okay, here's your account. You're gonna make a copy of that for this other system. So you've just got a copy, basically. And there's enough stuff on my account right now that I'm invested in the PS4 version.
Right.
So I would really like to play it on the PC, but there's a lot of money that's been invested.
Right. Yeah, and you don't want to, and that's part I understand of why Sony is like with the Fortnite stuff. They are not eager to just let you take your Fortnite stuff to a different console, because then if you buy stuff for Fortnite or V-Bucks or whatever on the Nintendo Switch, then Sony's not getting that money. Nintendo's getting that, their 10% or 20% or 30%. Yeah. I don't know, what their cut is. And I imagine that would be the exact same thing for something like Warframe. So a lot of people, especially with the Forsaken coming out for Destiny 2, I've started to see like an uptick in people pounding that drum for like give us cross saves, like not even necessarily cross play, because I think that's another step down the line, but just cross save, like, hey, just at the bare minimum, let me have my guy everywhere. But I think about Destiny, and I'm like, God, like, you have Destiny 2, then you have 2 expansion packs, then you're gonna have the Forsaken, then you're gonna have another like season pass of expansion packs after that. Like, so like, at what point would be like, hey, so I have Forsaken on my PS4, but I have like base Destiny on my PC. Okay, well then I probably couldn't do cross save, right? Because I wouldn't be able to have all that stuff that I have on my PS. Like, right. So like for a free game, it seems like the barriers for that should be a lot lower. Of just like, yeah, it's a free game. It's free here, it's free there. Like cross save, like.
Yeah, it should be.
It's all server side stuff, anyways.
Yeah, like Sony is not doing any of the. Sony is not doing like any of the upkeep on the Warframe servers. Nope. Like they're all client to client. Like yep. it's.
Yeah, if I took my PS4 and I threw it in the river and went and bought a new PS4, hey, guess what? My Destiny 2 guy would be there, fully ready to go. Like that's nothing to do with the location I'm playing that. It's all server stuff, and that's annoying. Like knowing that they could probably relatively easy turn that switch on. Like I said, maybe not relatively. Like I said, there's consideration.
Oh, I think it's like incredibly easy because I mean, like you remember, like when I think it was like a few months ago, they flipped the switch on by
Fortnite?
Accident.
Yeah, for Fortnite. For crossplay between Xbox and PS4.
They were like, "Oopsies!"
Oh, man, we forgot to. Yeah.
Oh no. People like this. Oh, we're sorry, Sony.
I'm still shocked that nothing has happened from that whole debacle around.
I'm utterly, I'm fucking baffled by it because it's so clearly them just being dickheads about it. Mm-hmm. Like there's no reason. There's no reason.
Well, like I said, the only thing is the money thing, which I can understand the money thing, but it's like, hey, like people are gonna buy it where they buy it, so they just happen to be playing on the Switch or the Xbox when they decide they want to buy V-Bucks, like. Okay.
Yeah, like if
you should have made your platform more compelling to play Fortnite on, like.
If I'm playing that thing on the console, it's probably gonna be on the PS4. If I want to play it portably, I'm probably gonna be playing it on the Switch.
Or your
on
Samsung
the go,
Galaxy Android phone.
It would be I was about to say but not through Google Play. Definitely not through Google Play.
Yeah. So there's Epic for the Android version of Fortnite, they are not releasing it on the Google Play Store. So right now you can get it through the Samsung Galaxy Store because it's exclusive to Galaxy phones right now, which is what I have, and I have played a couple matches of Fortnite on my phone. or you get it directly from the Epic website, similar to how Amazon does the Amazon app. In the Amazon App Store, you kind of have to download the APK, enable your I'm okay doing stuff from unknown sources.
I want to flip the switch to say, okay, I can play this.
And then Epic gets all of the money if you buy it through them, rather than giving their percentage to Google, which they obviously can't do on iOS because Apple has ways to download stuff directly from websites, but it's got to be much more locked in, because I've done it from very specific things for like work on an iPhone, but yeah, it's probably has to be like
it's
still
very
by
locked
Apple
down,
and stuff like that, I imagine. Fortnite, the whole cross-play, cross-platform, cross-save stuff. Maybe that's a like fixed by next generation thing or something. Like,
I mean, like, like the thing is, like, if I'm really gonna go back to Fortnite ever again in any large capacity, I'm just gonna bite the bullet and I'm just gonna make a new account.
I did. I made a new account because I wanted to play it on Android, and I want to eventually, if I do really want to play it, I'll probably want to play it on Switch or something like that. So
you can't link your fucking Sony version to the phone?
I probably could have. I didn't want to. I didn't even want to.
Fair enough.
I had made a new one for my Switch, because even though I never actually got in and played a game on Switch. And so when I got my Android phone, that's the one I logged into. Like, I probably could. And look, I have not played much Fortnite. The only thing that's on my Fortnite account is the random stuff I've gotten through Twitch Prime. For Fortnite. Yeah. Like, that's the only. Yeah. Or then and there's some PlayStation Plus stuff that I got for it as well, right? Because that's the PlayStation version. I hope that stuff gets figured out. Well, so we talked about it briefly. The only other little bit thing I want to talk about is Destiny 2. Destiny 2 did their I should have really looked it up. Moments of Triumph, Solstice of Heroes, something like that. I don't know. Basically, they're doing their celebration of year one. It started earlier this month. It goes until the 28th of this month. But they added an extra little thing this year that is way cooler than anything they have done before. So before, it was like they basically gave you this checklist of like, hey, go do all of these things. You level up a thing, and then you get rewards at various little points. Like in Destiny 1, it was literally a book that you opened up and you kind of did check marks off, and they gave you points, and you leveled up and you got things. Now they kind of laid it into the bounties thing, which, Adam, if you haven't played Destiny 2 in a long time, they brought bounties back. So they have strike bounties and crucible bounties that you can go in every day, pick up, and then go do, and then you get tokens and like shaders and random stuff when you complete them. And so they kind of filled it into that same thing, so you go and you pick up all your triumphs that you have to complete, and it's the stuff like normal. It's hey, did you complete the story? Did you beat a raid? Did you get all the golden chests on the planets? Did you did you get X amount of exotic items? Did you kill X amount of enemies? Do so many public events? Pretty normal stuff that you would expect to see. There's some extra like little things in there that I like that is specifically from the DLC that is kind of, what's the word for it? Like kind of collection, like grindy things, like there's a thing from Curse of Osiris where you can get these tablets that you have to power up that eventually it gives you weapons when you power up each individual one, but I guess if you get all of them, it unlocks an exotic ghost, so there's a thing for that. There's a thing with the Warmind DLC where you were opening up these like Siva nodes, or I don't remember exactly what they were called, and there was like 45 of those, and so there's a thing associated with that. And apparently if you do a bunch of those, you get like an exotic sword, which I'm like, why did I never do this? I love swords. So I've been kind of messing around with some of that stuff. But the really cool thing they added is they added a new armor set to the game, which is based off of the original armor that you were wearing when in the very first moments of the game, when you got killed and thrown back down to the earth and all that stuff. And it starts out at green, and it's like 200 power, 250 power, something like that. And the armor has quests on each item. And they did redux versions of 5 of the missions from the original campaign. So it's not, and so you can kind of go through and play those missions, and that's like each armor piece, because there's 5 pieces of armor, is associated with like, hey, complete this mission. And what they did with the missions is really cool because they took these missions that were like, a lot of them were like, you know, story heavy or kind of, you know, like obviously like the big Callus boss fight is in there. The mission where you are, where you're driving a tank is in there. The mission where you kind of go through the forest and find the spark is in there. But they completely changed the encounters in that game, the difficulty, the enemies that are in there. There's one where it pops up like 3 servitors. When you kill the servitors explode into like 3 smaller servitors, and then when you kill those, each one of those pops into 3 smaller. So like eventually you could just have like 30 servitor, like little mini servitor balls flying around, which is really cool. They've changed so many little things about those missions. Those missions are really cool, as well as like the other stuff is like, you know, pretty normal. It's like, you know, go get kills in the Crucible, go get kills with a arc energy weapon, and, you know, get kills with solar grenades, blah blah blah. And so you kind of go through those missions, and then you can upgrade it to a blue, and then it gives you with another set of missions for each armor piece. It's really cool. Like I honestly think, like, legitimately, I think every piece of armor in that game should have something like that on there. Like, it's like, so many people have complained for a long time about Destiny of like, hey, I found this green or I found this blue, and it looks awesome. Like, just the design of this weapon is really cool, but because it's a blue, it's completely worthless. Like, it's meaningless, right? So it's like, if they actually had something where you could like, yeah, take this thing and I really like the look of this, or this has a really, you know, really cool stat or something on it, whatever, and then you could upgrade it to a legendary version by doing like missions, kind of think like, I think of like what Call of Duty does, or used to do. I don't know if they still do it, where it's like, yeah, you really like the M16, cool, you get 30 kills with the M16 and it'll unlock an attachment. If you get, you know, X amount of headshots, you'll get a new scope, and, you know, things like that. Like, if they had those missions kind of built into like all the armor pieces, so if you really got attached to a specific piece of armor or a specific weapon, you could upgrade it to like a top tier thing. I think that would be really cool, and I really like what they do. The only problem I have with it is that I hit the second group of objectives, the blue items, and there are some ones on there that like are really grindy, taking up some time. Like, the one I have been working on is I have to get solar super kills, which I'm a Titan, which means I'm throwing hammers, and I'm at like 30%, and I've like killed like, I feel like I've killed like 100 enemies, and it's like, God, how many enemies do I have to kill to like max out this stat?
Jesus.
As well as the second, when you get to the second wave, it asks you to replay the story missions that they did the redux in again. Yeah. So that was kind of annoying, but then they're also significantly harder. So you can't, unless you're like really patient or really good, you can't solo them anymore, which is fine. I just, you know, I hopped onto LFG and I found a group and I blasted through them all relatively quickly. But the first ones I had soloed because I found it was really compelling and really cool to kind of go through these missions again in this new interesting way. And I have no doubt that when I get to the next level, the purple one, that I'm gonna have to play through those missions again, and they're probably gonna be even harder. And it's the same thing. I'll just have to go get a group of people and do it as well. So like, it's like the first like gas movement was really cool. Uh-oh.
Hi. Adam. Hello.
Hey, we got Adam back. Oh, no, we lost Adam. I don't have video.
Hello. Hi. Oh, why did my video?
I don't know.
Here we go. Video. Hi. Hello.
Okay.
Hi. The many advantages of using a phone.
Sure. Stuff happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so like at first glance, I thought it was really cool, but then when I got to the second level, it's starting to feel a little bit more grindy. Like, I think they could have lessened that. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, because like I feel like I saw people that were like, "Oh yeah, I maxed up my armor on like the first day," and I'm like, "How the hell did you do that?" Like, it seems like, I mean, maybe they just sat there and played it for like 20 hours or something like that. But it seems like it's taken me a long time to get to the purple level of armor. This is also kind of a cool thing because it basically gets you it can get you kind of a head start on the DLC, because you get you up to 400 light or 405 light if with mods. Which right now the cap is 385, so it's kind of, I guess you can kind of get a little bit higher up. I think the max light level in the next DLC is 600, so I don't think it really matters in the grand scheme of things. It's 600 or 500. It's like way higher. But it's cool. Like, they like with that, like a kind of combined with like the various little things that they've done, like bringing the bounties back, so like there was actually reason to go out and just play normal strikes, because you actually can get extra tokens and shaders and like engrams and stuff from it. is cool. Like I kind of kicking myself for not getting to max light right when the new DLC came out, because it's been a very slow grind to get to max light level. I'm going up like 4 points a week or something like that. I'm at like 370 or 369 right now. So I'm not even up to the point that I can do like the new raid yet. So hopefully I'll get a chance to do that before the DLC comes out. So on top of all that, like I said, I think that what they're doing here, I think it's a cool way to do it, and I wish they would do this type of like thing more. Bungie's come out with a bunch of things that's going to be in the next DLC as far as significant changes, and a lot of it is actually going to be for people even if you don't buy the DLC. So the most significant change they're making is they are changing the way weapons work in Destiny in Forsaken. Or I guess not in Forsaken, because it's going to be for everybody. So on the 28th is when they're going to launch it, but basically they are going away from... Right now it's kinetic, energy, and power weapons. And they're basically going to free weapons from those slots. So like right now, like every shotgun, every sniper rifle, every fusion rifle, they have to be in the power weapon slot. They're going to kind of free that up so that those weapons can go into the energy slot, or in some instances they can even go into the kinetic slot. What's interesting though is, depending on what type of weapon it is, the ammo that they pick up might stay the same. So like if you have a sniper rifle that goes into the energy weapon slot, or I think they're going to call it now the secondary slot, it still might need heavy ammo, but effectively you can have two of those in there. Or like if you want to have like a shotgun, like that might be green ammo, and or if it's a kinetic shotgun, it might just use primary ammo and it can be in your primary slot. Like they are kind of freeing up weapons from being stuck within their thing, but the ammo type they use can change. Like you can go a loadout that is two weapons that just use primary ammo, and so like you don't actually need green ammo for any reason whatsoever. Or you could go ones where you actually need all three or whatever. That seems really cool. And they said that they're balancing the weapons, so like, hey, like if this shotgun's going to be in the second slot or the first slot, obviously it's not going to be as powerful as a shotgun that's in the heavy slot. Actually, I don't know if they're going to have any shotguns in the power slot, but basically, like, it sounds like they're doing the balancing, they're doing the stuff to give people more interesting loadouts, while still kind of keeping the really powerful weapons feeling like really powerful weapons. Like, I don't know, Adam, if you've heard about the Whisper of Worms, the sniper rifle that came out.
I've heard people, I've heard people talking about it.
It's the Black Spindle, it's the Black Hammer, it's like one of the most highly regarded weapons from Destiny 1. Basically came back in Destiny 2, and like that's a sniper rifle. A lot of sniper rifles are going to the energy slot, but that one is staying a power weapon because it's still going to be like, they want it to feel overpowered. Like, and that's another thing that they added, which same thing. I'm not high enough level to do that, I don't think. Like I said, being only 370. But that's a really cool thing that they kind of just came out of nowhere. This kind of random quest that you can go get to get this really powerful sniper rifle that I really, really, really want, because I love sniper rifles so much. So yeah, they're doing a complete changing of the weapons. They're finally fixing mods, which has been one of the things I have hated about Destiny 2 for the longest time. They're getting rid of the thing that lets mods add to power, so they're getting rid of the +5 thing, as well as they are basically making all the mods stronger, getting rid of, like, you can't change weapons from like fire to void to arc anymore. They're going to be set, and then the mods for weapons are actual mods that do increase recoil or blah, whatever. Like, the mods are actually mods rather than just changing like the element of it. Like those are the two main things that everyone is getting. So even if you don't jump right on Forsaken, like right off the bat, kind of those like quality of life, just like, hey, this is just aiming to make Destiny a better game, everyone's going to get that stuff. That's kind of feeded into changes they're making in Crucible as well, where like you'll spawn with a limited amount of energy ammo. And then when you kill someone, they drop their energy ammo. So like they're specifically aiming at like shotguns and stuff like that to try to not make them too overpowered in Crucible, so that you have limited ammo. Or if like you're going to sit back and snipe people, you'll get like 3 shots of sniper rifle, and then if you want to get more, you have to actually go run to that person you killed and take their green ammo so you can keep sniping more, try to get rid of like camping and stuff like that. Like they're doing really good stuff. They haven't gotten too much into their new, like, the Dreaming Realm or the Dreaming City, or I forget what they're called exactly. That's supposed to be like their new end game thing, where the raid is, where like a bunch of other activities. Sounds like it's kind of like they're making the Leviathan right now into like a patrol zone almost, with like tons of secrets and like, you know, difficult content in there that's meant for basically when you get to max level. It's good stuff. Like I have enjoyed kind of going back to Destiny, kind of playing it. Like I've enjoying kind of just, you know, trying to get the armor up and kind of mess with that stuff. You know, it's like this specific grind, like even though I kind of complained that it is a little bit grindy, it is kind of challenging you to play the game and look at things that you don't normally do. Like one of the things I'm doing right now is play 10 adventures, which I barely touched adventures because there wasn't really a point to doing adventures like a certain point, because it just gave you blue stuff or it gave you like upgrade points, which I mean, once your character's maxed out, you don't need upgrade points for any reason.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So like I'm going in and doing like adventures and I'm like, oh, like this is a story mission that totally is leading up to like stuff that happened in the Warmind DLC. This would have been really cool if I had played it, because it would have given me a little bit more context about like there's things like that. It's like stuff that they kind of hid behind like not being that interesting because they didn't really have a gameplay reason for playing it. Like it's kind of opened up to like playing other things. Like I am actually just doing like normal strikes because strikes are really fun and it's a good way to just go get like super kills and energy kills and, you know, whatnot. Destiny 2 is a really good game, and it's not like it still has a lot of the problems. I think a lot of the problems that I had with it are going to be, or like a good amount of the problems I had with it are going to be fixed with the new stuff that's happening here pretty soon. So I'm really eager to see. We were saying before the podcast, like don't think I'm going to jump in and like pre-order this or like the new DLC or anything right away. If nothing else, I'm going to wait until the 28th when they actually launch a lot of these changes prior to the DLC coming out, and just kind of see what that actually, you know, the way that they change weapons around, the way that they change mods around, like that's really cool. That's really cool stuff that has been needed in this game for a while now. And you know, it seems like they are on a good path with Destiny 2, and you know, bringing it back to something more relevant. What they really need to do is what remains to be seen, is if they can do something really interesting with the Dreaming City and like creating like an actually breadth of really interesting end game activities that aren't just, hey, go do the raid and go do the Nightfall, you know, because that's really all like the high end stuff is right now, is go do those things. And those, I mean, you know, doing a raid is fun, you know. Some people would argue doing the raid is fun, Adam. I don't know how you feel about it. But, you know, like, you do that so many times, and, you know, that's, okay, like, what else do you got for me? And so if they really can add a lot of, like, interesting endgame content with the Dreaming City, definitely could be worth it.
The first 20 or 30 times, the raid stuff is fun. Then, not so much.
Yeah, I want to see the third raid. I haven't heard, like, I don't think people seem to be super excited about it. The raid layer, the Star of the Spires, or whatever it's called, Spire Stars. But I want to check it out just because I do. I mean, I have beaten all the raids in Destiny 1 and so far in Destiny 2, so I definitely should play this third one. And I'm pretty sure it's part of the triumphs and stuff like that too. So if I want to fill up my triumph card and get all the fancy things and whatnot, I should do that. So yeah, that stuff coming up with Destiny pretty soon. There are some other things that are coming out pretty soon. Adam, I don't know. We were talking about it. They released a Red Dead Redemption 2 gameplay trailer, the first of what sounds like several gameplay trailers, which I was not expecting. Because right at the beginning, it's like trailer 1 gameplay, and I'm like, wait, what? So there's going to be more trailers that talks about more stuff. Oh my God, Adam! Red Dead Redemption 2 looks amazing. Like it is gorgeous. And the stuff that they showed, which is very minimal, like didn't really say a lot, but like the stuff that they showed with like the way it looks like shooting works, it looks like you always have like a pistol and a rifle, and you can like pretty seamlessly switch back and forth to shoot people at a whim, because like they're talking about like reloading is going to be very realistic. So it's like, yeah, like you need to shoot like, you know, your revolver that has 6 shots. And if there's still other guys, like it's going to be significantly faster to just grab your, you know, rifle over your shoulder and shoot them rather than sit and reload, you know, your shots into the revolver. Like it looks so smooth and seamless. There's tons of animals and like hunting, and they talked about like the importance of like your horse and the saddlebags to hold stuff, and like taking a deer carcass and putting it on your horse and then bringing it back to camp to feed the people at your camp. And it's like there's so much. It looks like there was so much stuff in that game. It looks so freaking good, and I was excited for Red Dead, and like I've always say that Red Dead Redemption is like the best game of the previous generation, and so I shouldn't be surprised by how good this game looks. But man, does it look so good! It looks so good, and
yeah,
I'm really curious to see.
It's a lot of game. It's gonna be a lot of game.
Yes. That's one of the reasons that I'm kind of thinking about maybe waiting on the Destiny thing, because like you're gonna have Spider-Man and then Red Dead is like October 4th or something like that, isn't it? Like I think it's like early October, and so it's like I might not have time to be messing around with Destiny 2 because Spider-Man, from everything I've heard about Spider-Man, sounds like Spider-Man is I was going to say amazing, and I don't want to make that joke, and I apologize. Sounds like Spider-Man is great.
Astonishing.
Astonishing.
Gwen Stacy killing.
Apparently that game is great. From like the early things that I've been hearing about it, Red Dead looks phenomenal. Like, it's
Red
Dead looks so good. They also released QuakeCon is currently going on, or is it over now?
QuakeCon's happening right now. It was the keynote was yesterday.
Okay, yeah, and they showed off a lot of gameplay for Doom Eternal.
Whole bunch of Doom.
Like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that?
Yeah. It was a lot of stuff. It looks really good.
So, here's the thing about that game. It looks phenomenal. It looks super fun. I'm curious if that's the same type of thing. Like, I wonder if it's going to end up being like that second Tomb Raider game, where like the first Doom was such a shock and surprise just because of like no one expected that to be good. Like it was inventive, it felt new, it felt fast while still feeling kind of like harkening back to like old Doom stuff. And this one looked exactly the same, like the glory kills and the weapons, and like they had this weird like flamethrower thing that came over your shoulder. Like there was a lot of really cool stuff in that, but it does kind of make me wonder if this one's just going to be like a really, really, really good game, and I have a hard time thinking it's going to be that like huge surprising step. I hate to be so cynical about it.
I mean, it might not be surprising, but I think it's still going to be goddamn good.
I really hope so.
I mean, like the movement stuff with like very specifically the
there was like dashing and stuff.
Grappling hook.
Yeah, and grappling hook. Yeah. Well, there was like dashing too, because he did like a bunch of like back dashes. Like,
there's dashing in there. Yeah. So like there's a lot of movement stuff they're improving. I think that the stuff they showed, especially that like, hey, there are actual humans here, and you're gonna have some interaction with that, and the idea of the Doom Marine just interacting with humans is like, you have key mine, and he just grabs the guy who's wearing the key around his neck, grabs him by the key, and drags him over so they can slam the key on. And then they're like, hey, you're not allowed. And like that, there's some really good writing that they showed off in that trailer, which is like, like the story stuff within Doom was like, okay, like there's some really good stuff around the edges of it. The main story is pretty straightforward, but it serves what it needs to do.
There was an attitude. There was a certain attitude the game has, like right from the beginning, when it's like, oh, this is what's going on, blah blah blah, and he just punches the screen. It's like, nope, I don't want to deal with that. Like, I'm just here to kill.
But
monsters.
Like then having to have that interaction, but with like humans.
Yep.
I also think like they're setting a really good stage of like, hey, this is a fucking war that's going on. Like that second part where they're like, okay, you're on Phobos now. And like you're going through the base, and they're just like, oh shit, they broke through the line, and you're seeing like these demons just like attacking the base. They're like, oh, we gotta fire the BFG 10,000. And that's just a Death Star. They've just made a Death Star. Like I think that they're really leaning into that attitude in a really cool way. That I think that is the thing that you can expand on the most, aside from like, some good gameplay and movement tweaks, like especially.
Well, and from the looks of it, it allows their, like, from the bit that they showed off, it looks like that the extra movement stuff allows the areas to be like more vertical, more open, more varied, like, you know, different types of like landscapes and architecture, like that could then lead to a lot of really, I mean, because look at, like, a lot of what Doom was like, hey, go into this room, kill all the things in this room, move on to next room. And so it was a lot of kill boxes, and those boxes were really well designed, almost kind of like old school multiplayer maps of like, yeah, there's a little jet thing over here that you can jump up to the second level, and if you jump up here, there's armor. Like if they can kind of expand on that idea with all this extra movement stuff to have it like be multi-layered and these huge open environments, like that's, I really hope that they can kind of take it to another level. You know, because I guess my cynicism comes from it feeling like it's so soon since the last one. But I guess when it comes out, it will be. I mean, it'll only be like 2 years when the new one comes out. Like that's
2016. I mean, it was 2016 when the.
No, it was 17.
Was it last year? Oh yeah, it was. Yeah,
last year. Yeah.
Did they say when Eternal's coming out? I don't know if they said when.
No, I don't think they said. But this video looked so crisp and complete that it makes me assume it's going to be next year, like next fall or something like that. I mean, you know, that is 100% just me making an assumption.
Right, and well, so that they're working with is it id Tech 5, which I think they built for Doom 2017.
Right.
So, like, they don't have to build a new engine. They said, like, this is the most graphically complex game that it has ever made. So, like, it seems like they have a really good working base with is it Tech 5 or is it 6? I don't know. But anyways, the engine that they're working with, it seems like it was built to be really versatile, which is also why, you know, day and date, they're also putting out the Switch version, which is insane. Panic button out there doing the Lord's work. But yeah, like I think there is stuff that they can expand upon. But I think that it's probably going to be very similar to a Doom 2 situation, which I think Doom 2 is the better game of Doom and Doom 2. But like, there's not a ton of differences. Like, there's new maps, there's some changes here and there, but by and large, it's the same core game. They've just got better maps, you know. I think like, though, the stuff they showed off, like especially the movement, it just feels so fluid and fast, and like allows you to do stuff in really interesting ways, which then makes you go like, okay, well, I wonder what they can build as a boss for this stuff. Because if you start talking about dashes and grappling hooks and stuff like that in the context of a boss battle, that could be really interesting. Yeah, especially with the fact that Hayden is going to be Samuel Hayden is going to be coming back for that shit. Probably.
It's a pretty hard cliffhanger that original game ends on with.
It really is, isn't it? Oh. I also, I just, man, I fucking love Doom. I love that. I love. Yeah. That was so good. No,
I didn't watch all the stuff that they said about Doom. Was there any mention about multiplayer or anything like that?
So that is actually the coolest thing, is what they're doing for multiplayer. So they're ditching. I don't know if they're fully ditching, but they are not doing. From what I understand, they're not doing the same thing with multiplayer. What they're doing is they're saying, okay, you can invade other people's worlds now. As a demon. Okay. So you connect online and you go, okay, I want to become a demon, and then you're just there as, like, you know, a Cacodemon or an imp, or, you know, whatever it's going to be in that case. So that's how they're doing that's the new multiplayer stuff they showed off.
Okay.
Which I think that's really cool. I don't know exactly like what rewards you get for killing that thing, because like in Souls games, when you do invasions, like there's a there's pretty big risk that you're going to lose all your shit if you try to invade somebody else's game. And if you get invaded, you get their shit. So I don't know how exactly they're going to reward that or why you would want to play online if they're not going to reward you. But
well, I mean, yeah, because whatever. I mean, the single player Doom is very much a very thoroughly planned out like upgrade trees and like to find these points and whatever. Like it was very precise with what it was trying to do. So it's not like you could just be like, oh yeah, if you do this invasion and you're good, you get an upgrade point. Because then I mean, you could just get overpowered right from the beginning of the game, which maybe they don't care about. I don't know, but I'd be curious to see like what the impetus between actually doing that would be. That's cool. Yeah, like I said, I hadn't read a ton of stuff about it. I just I watched a bit of the gameplay last night, and like I love what they're doing. Like the one glory kill where he basically just bops the demon on his head and his neck just smashes into his body. I love that game so much, and what they showed looks really cool. Like I said, I'm just curious if they're going to be able to take it to like another level, like a significant step on beyond Doom, or if it's just going to be like, hey, Doom part, like I said, like Doom Part 2, which is still probably going to be really good and still really entertaining. But I wonder if they're going to be able to take it to another level.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see. I mean, obviously, you're not going to be able to buy Doom Eternal used from any stores.
Look at you,
because
with the segue.
Because Bethesda. God damn it! How do they fuck this up every time?
So I'm curious. So this is a very, very new thing that just happened, like this today or yesterday.
I heard about it this morning.
Yeah, that's what I heard about it too. So apparently, a person who, a third-party seller on Amazon, who has sold. Sounds like he's just a guy. Like he's not like a guy who is like running like a web store or something like that. It sounds like he's just a guy. Had bought a copy of what game was it?
It
was Evil Within 2. It was Evil
Within 2. Yep, Evil Within. Yep.
For the PS4, and then decided instead he was going to upgrade his PC, and so never opened his copy of Evil Within 2. Went to go sell it on Amazon and effectively got a cease and desist letter from Bethesda saying you cannot sell this game. You have to take down this listing right now, or we will sue you. And he came back at them with there's a law about the right to sell your individual work as long as it's not changed substantially or whatever. Like protecting like you can sell an original IP as long as you haven't changed it. And they came out saying that the thing that has changed is because it is through a third party, not from the original seller, is that it no longer carries its original warranty on it, which I wasn't even aware that games had warranties on them.
That's a questionable. If I go out and I go, okay, if I go out to say GameStop or whatever, and like that shit gets broken, unless I bought their disc protection,
right?
I don't really have many options.
I think from the article I think that I read, which I believe was on Polygon, they said something about GameStop has like a 30-day like defect warranty, like if it's scratched or something like that. But yeah, if it's broken or whatever, that's a totally different thing. But like, I don't think like if you just go to Best Buy and buy a game, I don't think you can do anything about it. Like, I don't think games have some inherent warranty on them like a lot of other physical goods do.
Especially when you break a seal. Like that tends to be the point where they go like, no, you can sometimes come in and say, okay, this thing was broken. Yeah. Okay, well you can exchange it. Yes, sure. But with Amazon, if I go, hey, you fucking sold me something that's broken, they tend to. It's sort of like the same thing with like PayPal, right? Like you can file a claim and say, hey, no, you sold me something defective.
Right. Yeah.
Like there is a fucking protection. Don't fucking give me this bullshit about it being about the end consumer. Fuck you.
So it's crazy, and the article kind of points it out because like there's still lots of used ones for sale on Amazon. So like why this particular guy was singled out is hard to say. He removed his listing Because I mean, like Joe Schmo, I don't have the funds to go fight Bethesda in a court of law. You know, like I'm sure any random person wouldn't. But this whole thing is just really ugly, and
it is only ugly for Bethesda. Like that's the thing. Like this doesn't like make me feel really good, especially on fucking QuakeCon weekend. Like this is when you're gonna pull this. It's it's so ugly. It's so gross.
Yeah, and they also went after him because he had listed it as new, which they said was like false representation or like committing fraud, even though it's factory sealed.
No, it's new.
That is new. That is literally what that means. Like, it's the most bizarre thing. I mean, I guess it all stems from this weird warranty thing, which is not a thing for video games as far as I've ever known. But yeah, I do not know in any way, shape, or form that Bethesda wins from, like, this is a bad move for Bethesda. In an era where everyone hates EA, you don't want to do anything that makes you look worse than EA. And
especially, man, like fucking Bethesda they've obviously been lawsuit happy in the past, and we've talked about it.
Yeah, they ran out of big companies to sue, so now they just sue everyday normal people. Like their lawyers have to earn their keep.
Like I don't think that this is gonna make me go, oh man, I'm really excited to see what Todd Howard has fucking in store next. It makes me go like, I really don't want to support your company in any way. Yeah. Like I was like a couple days ago, I was like, I kind of want to check out that Moon Crash DLC thing for Prey, because that thing seems like that could be kind of cool. And now I'm like, I think I'm good. I think I'm set. Obviously Doom, as long as that's good, I'll probably still buy that, and whatever Wolfenstein, the next one, the Youngblood,
whatever they called that,
I
mean that's the thing is like, so it's this like two different types of things where it's like, a lot of the games they put out are really good, but like the actual company itself, like the overarching like figurehead or whatever is like that company is terrible and does. I mean, a lot of the lawsuits they've done have been for legitimate reasons, but a lot of the stuff they've been has been really over frivolous or like, I mean, like this is just awful. Like, and this. Like,
I mean, this was like also the same year they did the Westworld game lawsuit thing.
Well, it's like so that's one of those instances where that sounds like it's a little bit more reasonable because it sounds like there was actually code that was copied for it. So like, that makes sense.
There is, but then they also like decided to pile onto it and say like, oh, it's a blatant copy of Fallout Shelter.
I mean, did you play that? Did you play that Westworld game? It kind of was a blatant copy of.
I mean, but also, hey, there's that fucking game that I get ads for, the Family Guy Fuck Castle game. Every fucking time that I get a goddamn ad for that, I'm like, oh, that's just Jesus. That is just fucking Fallout Shelter, but with that. So what is the distinguishing factor between the two of those?
I mean, one had actual, like, the same company that worked on one worked on the other, and there was actual stolen code. I think this is the distinguishing factor.
I mean, yes, but when you decide to put in the, hey, this is a blatant rip-off thing,
I think that's probably that's probably like one of those, like, I mean, I'm already here, so I might as well complain about this other thing here. Like if I go to the store because I bought, like, this other thing, that's bad, and I'm like, also, like, the peaches I bought last week were bad too. Like, I'm not saying that you're the only one who sells bad peaches, but, like, come on now, like, not only was this broken, but the peaches, like, were,
I mean, but I feel like was the code thing, because there was an initial one, and then I want to say there was like an addendum to it. I feel like that might have been the code thing, but
I didn't look that much into it. I just know, like, they were specifically talking about the stolen code and, like, through like a bug that could be that was replicatable in the Westworld game that they had fixed in Fallout Shelter before that game came out, which is pretty damning. But
then, like, you get into some of their other lawsuit history, and it just it makes it seem like these guys, it's a bad look.
Mm-hmm.
And how much of that is ZeniMax, how much of that is Bethesda. Like, I don't know exactly where the line is between those two, just because of the whole ownership issues. Man, it's so gross. It just makes me feel like nasty and just ugh. I don't want to support you at all. And I already wasn't super happy about any idea of supporting them previously because of some of this stuff. Like,
well, so this
in a year where they announced Fallout 76 is not their biggest fuck up. So
hey, the Fallout is yet to be seen if Fallout 76 is a fuck up or not. Okay, so
aren't you excited to download another executable for this one specific game?
I mean,
it's not going to be on Steam.
I think I already have the Bethesda launcher on my computer for when I messed around with Quake Champions. So, dude, that's everything. Everything's a launcher now. You got Steam, you got Blizzard, you got EA, you got Ubisoft, you got Epic has their own, you have Bethesda has their own, Twitch has their own, Discord is about to have their own. Like,
aren't you excited to have a million different platforms where all your shit is separated? It's great. Meanwhile, I fucking can get a digital download of like most movies, and I tie it to my Movies Anywhere account, and it just works on everything.
Yep. Movies have gone the opposite direction with that, which it used to.
How did movies not fuck this up, and games did?
We had it. Well, I mean, we had Steam for a long time, and it was kind of like the place. I guess we have EA to blame for that one too, because they really kind of kicked that off with Origin. And then everyone else has kind of followed suit. And now everyone else is like, hey, so we could just build our own store and not have to pay any money to Valve.
We can get 100% of the profits. Oh, cool.
What an interesting idea. Let's see. The only other thing we had written down here in our things to talk about, which honestly I don't think there's a ton to talk about, but I think it is worth mentioning, is the whole IGN debacle surrounding their Dead Cells review.
This whole fucking thing. Oh my God. Man, okay, so do you want me to go into this? I don't know how much of this you've... Okay,
so
there is a small YouTubing channel called Boomstick Gaming. And Boomstick Gaming, they go, hey, here is my review. I want to say it's like one person. It might be a couple people, but I think it's mostly one person.
And it was like one of his first, if not his first, like video review he had ever posted or something like that.
Yeah, like it was super early for this guy. Very small. Well, he was super small before this. Very small. And like, YouTube content creators who are really small, they are a lot more vulnerable to this sort of thing. So a reviewer who was, I want to say, working freelance.
No, he was a staff writer.
Was he actually a staff writer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, he was. So he was part of the Nintendo. I think he was a junior staff writer, but he was a junior staff writer for the Nintendo section of IGN. Okay.
So Boomstick Gaming posts their review, and then all of a sudden, this guy whatever the fuck his name is, he posts his video review, and he does the thing where it's the third grade, fourth grade thing of it's technically not me plagiarizing you because I'm using a couple of synonyms, but I still have, for the most part, exactly the same sentence. And so this video goes up. Obviously, IGN, they monetized it, and then all of a sudden, Boomstick Gaming sees this, and they post a video saying, "What do I do?" Yeah. Like, IGN stole this review from me.
Yeah, but he's just a little guy over here. I think his original video at that point had like 1,200 views or something like that. Like
very low amount.
Yeah, modest, but it's not it's not anywhere near IGN.
Like compared to what IGN is doing, it's very small. So he literally is not like being fair. He's like, this is what happened. These lines. He literally like plays them back and forth of like, here's my video and here's their video. And so he literally goes like, what do I do? Like, what do I do? And so then this kind of like got into the mainstream, and it's like, oh, this is like there's no question that this is what happened.
The internet loves a witch hunt, when it comes to stuff. Especially I think I don't know why the internet in general doesn't like
is
IGN.
A really hard target. And like some of that is debatable. Some of that, I think there's sometimes where you can go, okay, yeah, like I think like that's a bit ridiculous of IGN to report that, but whatever. Like they're a mega conglomerate online. Like their job is not to be like the thing that's going to appeal to, let's say, specific corners of the internet who tend to demand blood. So this review goes out, this video comes up, and IGN goes, okay, we're going to investigate this, and we're going to see what the fuck happened. And I want to say it was like maybe the same day or the next day. They go, yep, this is totally what happened. The video got stolen, so we are firing this guy. And apparently this had also happened before, to some degree. There were some questions that were being raised about like, hey, like there's some stuff that seems very similar to this other review. But then, so IGN lets him go. They apologize. They should probably be paying the guy whose review went up.
Supposedly, there's some talks about that of like sharing the monetization or whatever with the guy.
They should. They should.
And the guy, the Boomstick guy, put up like a Patreon, which I'm sure the way the internet works, probably a lot of people put money into that. Because
hey, you know what? Hey, fair enough. Yep. You know what? You did IGN's work for you. You did. I'm sorry, you actually didn't do IGN's. You did the work for this guy. Because then IGN, like yesterday, they put up a new one that is fully original.
Yep.
And
from a different person,
from an entirely different writer. So like it's ugly, but like it's very much ugly on the guy who wrote it. I don't think that in this case, IGN kind of did a lot of due diligence with this. Yes. They could have done more. They certainly could have done more, but you're a giant corporation. You've got a giant relative to internet space. You got to put this review up. You don't have time to check every single video that's online. Sure. You should be trusting your writers to not be doing this, because this is fucking 101. Like, this is not complex. This is not something you do. The story doesn't end, though, because yesterday...
This is the part I hadn't heard this until you told me about this earlier. This is great.
Oh, man. The video... So... Everybody has apologized in this situation except for the non-writer in this case. I
would say you would think a guy like this would just go, like, I would just go dark. Like, I would delete my Twitter. I would be gone. Yep. Like, that's what a sane person would do. Like, you were found out. Let's get out. I'm gone. Like, however,
you mute everything. You don't talk, or if you do talk, you admit it. You go, hey, look, this is what happened. This, you know what? I'm not asking you to understand why I did it, but this is why I did it. And it was wrong. I fucked up. I did bad. So that's not what happened. So in this video, this 5.5 minute fucking thing. So he comes out and he says, I've been accused of plagiarism. Now, I want you to understand that that's not what happened. I watch a bunch of videos when I'm working on something, which, number one, that is a fucking cardinal rule.
No,
you don't
do that. That's I am
you,
not a professional reviewer, and I know that.
You never fucking do that.
Yeah,
like
you don't watch
that's
coverage.
Not,
you especially don't watch reviews. You don't even look at like
what
the Metacritic score is. Like, you don't want to taint your opinion from what other people are saying. Like,
so he puts out this. He says, I watch a lot of stuff before I do a review, to kind of get a picture of what people are talking about. Which, again, like, that's not what you do. This is supposed to be your opinion. Yeah. Hey, guess what? Game opinions are supposed to be your opinions.
Yes.
He then goes on to say, this isn't what happened, but I'm sorry to IGN. You shouldn't be attacking IGN for this, which, you know what? Yeah, you shouldn't be attacking IGN for this, because it's not IGN's job to make sure this dickhead didn't steal. He says, I want to apologize to Boomstick Gaming for what happened, which is not really admitting that you've done anything. You deserve a lot. You're a small YouTuber, and you deserve all of the credit you're getting right now. So he's not admitting that he did anything, right? Just something vague happened.
Yep.
Who knows what? It's not like you copied dude's words. Like, that's not a thing that you just got influenced by. Like, I've had instances where I've been like, oh shit, I watched something, and looking back at the work that I did, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can kind of see how I got influenced there by this, so I want to cut this out. But this guy, like, copied stuff. Like, this is not a thing of like, oh, well, it was just an amalgamation of different ideas that I got from all of these sources. He then goes on to say, like, don't attack my family. My family wasn't anything in this, which, yeah, again, hey, fair enough. They didn't do this dickhead's stealing. You shouldn't be doxing this guy's family and shit. But then, oh boy, he goes, he says, now I have people like Kotaku's Jason Schreier trying to imply that other reviews of mine are not original. They're trying to, I want to say it was like a FIFA, or it was something.
I heard about FIFA 16 being another like review he did that was questionable.
And so he was trying to, so they're trying to say that it's somehow disingenuous because it has some similarities to this other thing. Again, not addressing the thing that's being brought up, which is like, hey, there is stuff that looks like you fucking ripped it directly from there. Then he says, which, again, like, let's take this all in. He goes, this YouTube channel is how I got my job at IGN. They saw my work on my YouTube channel, and just in case, Jason Schreier, all of my work on this YouTube channel is entirely original. You can go through my stuff and you can try to find if there's anything else that I might have stolen. And Jason Schreier did, and he totally found out there was other shit that he stole. So there's a review of Metroid Samus's Return that he did that straight up stole lines from Engadget's review of it. There's Jason Schreier this morning said, hey, he challenged me to find it. Here it is. Like, this is exactly what he said that we shouldn't be able to find. So it again, like, it looks like he's, especially because he keeps going on for a bit of time in the video. He goes on about how Kotaku is just trying to ride his coattails, which, again, that's another popular target for people to go after online, right? Is like Kotaku and their stuff. Like, especially yesterday, following the other thing that Kotaku reported about with Riot Games, and the real ugly shit that went down there. it's a very easy target, and so it looks like he is trying to go, no, I'm not one of them because I got fired for fucking plagiarizing stuff. I'm one of you. I'm a YouTuber. You all love YouTubers, and they're bad people at that site. They're trying to destroy me. And then following that, of course, human cesspool that he is, Colin Moriarty, like clockwork after this goes, hey, I'd really like to have you on my show to talk about things. Like
Sure.
clockwork.
Yeah.
It happens with him. It happens with him all the time. And the great thing about it is that literally people were going onto Twitter and going like, this is exactly what's going to happen. Within a day, Colin Moriarty is going to try to have him on his show. Because of course he is, because he attacked Kotaku. Because Colin will have fucking anybody who hates Games Press on his show because they decided that Colin Moriarty wasn't good at that job, because he's not. So yeah, like it's you shouldn't have said anything. Like you should not have like. You were better off not saying anything. I actually, in one of the groups I'm in, somebody said like, yeah, like at least he admitted that something happens. Like he didn't admit that anything happened.
He basically is arguing that he was fired without cause. Like
there's something happened. We don't know what. Who could know what happened? It could have been that they just didn't like me for my radical beliefs. No, there's a very clear thing that happened. There's no question as to what happened. You stole this guy's review. And then, yeah, trying to turn it into this victim thing of like, no, I'm the real victim here. It's very similar to the thing of like the PewDiePie thing when the New York Times was reporting on his stuff of like, no, the New York Times, they just hate me. There's no reason that they're attacking me for no reason because I'm a YouTuber. It stunk of that. It just wound up being this really scuzzy video, and I watched it at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, I'm not fucking awake enough for this bullshit.
Well, I mean, think about this guy, right? Like, he's burned, right? Like, he is burned from ever. Like, I mean, a lot of people would consider, like, what he was doing, like, being, like, a staff writer for a big gaming website is, like, a dream job, Like, to be doing that on a daily basis, playing games, writing about games, blah, blah, blah. And he is burned now. Like, no one's gonna hire someone who has plagiarized, and then he just has to go on and just like tack on all this other stuff to just like really, really make sure that no one's gonna want to hire him.
Nobody's gonna want to hire him. But it's very similar.
I was gonna say, I think it's an attempt on his part to, I think, try to basically drum up his own popularity in some sense so that he has some semblance of a career going forward. Is almost what it seems like. Like,
well, and it is the Colin Moriarty thing, right? Like, Colin Moriarty comes out on to Twitter and he says this ridiculous bullshit, and everybody goes, "Yo, like, you really shouldn't be associated with Kind of Funny." And like Kind of Funny doesn't even really disavow him. Is that like that they kind of say like, okay, like he's not working for us anymore, but they never come out and they directly like say like, oh no, like it's super fucked up that this is what he did. And then because of this, he's Colin's able to then go on to like Glenn Beck's show, and like he's able to transition himself into being the sort of like Dave Rubin stand-in that he always dreamed that he could be. So like this is a very hard pivot for this guy, and I just think that nobody's going to want to hire him as a writer ever again. It's again, same thing happened with Nick Robinson, right? Like Nick Robinson does horrid shit, really gross and disgusting stuff, and gets fired from Polygon, and then is starting to drum up support through his Patreon of like, no, I'm the guy who got the guy who was a Tetris grandmaster to play Tetris Effect. And so he's not being hired by anybody, but now, because you don't necessarily need to be hired by anybody, you can
freelance,
have a career
enough. And that's almost kind of what it feels like that move is, though. Like, as much as like the smart thing would be, just go disappear or do a mea culpa and maybe try to restore some amount of credibility to your career. He's basically, sounds like he's just gonna kind of like, just dive into it as hard as he can and be like, yep, this is me, this is not what I did, everyone is out to get me, and try to basically get support from that kind of crappy corner of the internet that everyone hates.
That very disingenuous part of the internet. It's so gross to see somebody like that deluded, and then to read through the comments and see the people who are defending that saying that it's an apology when he hasn't acknowledged that anything happened. He just acknowledged that something happened. He doesn't really apologize for doing it. He's sorry to those people, but he's not sorry for what he did.
He's sorry that thing happened to them.
I'm really sorry to hear that this happened to you. Yep. I don't know if there was any way that it could have been prevented.
Nope. I don't know.
Nobody could have done it.
Gosh.
It defies all logic, and it ultimately means that he's not going to ever be writing in the games press again. But it also means that those people who like to target specific outlets, like, they've got another thing to sort of add to their repertoire, which is not fair to that outlet. Like, it's not fair to, like, you can have issues with IGN. Like, I always think of the Football Manager review that they did, of like, that's actually a thing you guys should have gotten at editing, where the guy who wrote the review for Football Manager was like, I don't like this game because you can't play soccer in it. And it's like, well, hold on a fucking second. Like, that's the point of this game, is that you don't play that. Yeah. That's a thing you can say, hey, that's the thing you should get in editing.
So let me say, so that's a legitimate standpoint to have. It just means that review is probably not relevant to anyone who cares about Football Manager, like, it's not necessarily that that's a bad review, it's just bad content, like, if I want to go write a review for Street Fighter V Arcade Edition and be like, I played like an hour of Street Fighter 4 and I haven't played Street Fighter V before Arcade Edition, and I don't really like fighting games either. This is like a 2 out of 10.
Yeah, that's a bad game.
Like, you know what? It probably is a bad game because I think it's a bad game. I mean, I haven't played it, but I'm speaking. But that's not helpful content to anyone, because be like, well, of course you don't like it because you don't like fighting games. Like, why do we care what you think about fighting games?
Right? Yeah. So like, but also, like, I just don't know how this happened, because Dead Cells is a fucking good game.
And like, and that's the best part, is like the original thing that came out when they didn't really know what's going on. They're like, we pulled the redo, we're gonna investigate it. They're like, all we know is that the people who like worked with him is he played a lot of the game and spoke very highly of the game. We don't know what happened with the actual review. And so it's like, so clearly the guy like really liked the Dead Cells and had like around the office was like, Dead Cells is great. And then it's like, oh, I gotta write a review. I don't really know how to put this into words, or this other guy said it really well. So like, I don't, like, it's not like
but it was so specifically a small thing that he went after, so it's not even a thing that he can say that he was influenced by it, because you didn't think anybody would notice.
No, I don't. So it's like it's like he specifically targeted that is basically what he did, like, right?
Yeah,
and it's like
yes,
it's
absolutely.
It's the same type of thing when like you find out like, oh, that cop was taking bribes or was planting evidence. It like puts into question like everything that cop had done before them. That is exactly what this is. It's like everyone's gonna like go back and look through every review this guy has written at IGN and be like, I hope I can find like this other random YouTube channel that this has been used at.
Yeah, let me find. Yeah, so like now it's man, it's just so fucked up.
It's a crazy situation.
It's hilarious.
Yes.
Also, but it's not good. It's a bad situation, but holy shit, how?
Yeah, I mean, I still give props to IGN. Like, I think IGN handled itself pretty well.
I think they handled it well.
You know, like they came out like when they didn't know anything. They didn't come out and be like, you know, we fully support our guy or anything like that. They came out and said like, nope, we pulled that review. We're gonna investigate. And then they did come out and say like, nope, yep, we found. I don't think they used the. I mean, the only thing I think that was a little annoying is I don't think they used the word plagiarism in like the actual thing they put out. They just said like, we noticed like similarities or like too much similarity between, like, they didn't use the word plagiarism, which like, you know, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, maybe you should talk like, you know, call it a duck.
You can't. So if they said like, yes, this is plagiarism in the case of him,
they're admitting
that could open up them to a lawsuit, because you can't say, oh, he definitely intentionally stole this, because that's what you would have to prove in a court of law.
Then you're admitting that fault had happened, and then you could easily get sued. I guess that's right. Like,
so from a legal standpoint, I get why they didn't, but he totally fucking plagiarized it.
Yeah, and like I said, and I don't. I mean, they're never going to come out and say like, yeah, we made it a deal with this guy, and we're going to give him, you know, $5,000 of the, you know, whatever. We're never going to hear the details of that, but it sounds like those conversations are happening. Yeah. So hopefully there is some good that will come out of this. And hey,
I think it's not even a thing that you have to like do a ton of investigation for, at least to like pull the review, which I think is why it was a really easy thing to go, yep, we're yanking that shit down and we're looking into how this happened. So like, a very fast response and not bullshitting around with it, which is cool.
Yeah, and to plagiarize a joke from the Giant Bombcast, if IGN is looking for a new writer for the Nintendo section, I know a guy who has a really good Dead Cells review. Anyways, yes, I totally stole that joke. I'm admitting to it. It's not plagiarism as long as you say that you stole it, right? I think that's how that works.
Yes, legally. That's called a citation. Did you? Well, hold on a second. You have to put quotes around.
Quotes, yes, quotes. They said this.
See, if he would have just put quotes around
the entire review, he didn't see the quotes at the beginning, at the end, and then at the very bottom in tiny little letters it said "Boomstick Gaming."
Or you just add in a hyperlink on the last period, just specifically so that it'll link to it. Like, technically, no, I quoted it.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and work on getting out of here. We've been here about 2 hours now, which, like I said, I knew this was gonna be long because this happens when we haven't recorded for a long time. As always, thank you so much for listening. This is Pixelated Podcast, which we are on pixelated.net is our website. Now that we are kind of ramping up and getting into the fall, we will we'll have more content and stuff up there. We should have. I haven't got a chance to get into it since the new version of it came out. We should have some content about We Happy Few, which actually launched for realsies yesterday.
For fulls. Now it's fully out.
And you know what? As my due diligence, I did not read any reviews or anything like that, but I did see a headline for review that made it sound like it was pretty good. So that gives me hope that maybe it's not going to be a completely terrible game like I thought it was when I originally played it.
We read some different things.
Did you?
And
I saw one headline that said it was, I forget the word they used, but I'll use it in my review and then you'll know. What it was. But
just put quotes around it. Just take the review and put quotes around it.
Anyway, so we'll have that up. You know, we'll hopefully have some more stuff up there, reviews or other pieces as we actually get into more games and stuff coming out. Until then, you can find us on the website. We're also on Twitter at @pixel_related. And you can find us on YouTube and Twitch under Pixel Related. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Kyle. That was Adam, and we will see you next time.